Well, good morning, everyone. There we go. Well, good morning, everyone. Again, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 13th day of August 2019. 13, my favorite number. Whenever I do these, I keep this reading random, and so I'll take the 13th card each time. If you've been here before, you know that. If you haven't been here before, welcome. I'm so happy to see everyone today. We have a questionable week this week and next week as to when these are going to get posted. My husband is on jury duty, and he went for orientation yesterday in the afternoon, and so it didn't impact this at all. And then we get home, and we look online after 6 o'clock, like they tell you to do, to see, if you're called up to come down there. And so no one is scheduled today to even go. So I don't know what's going on. Either there's trials that are continuing or something like that, but I don't know. There were probably over 200 or about 200 people responded to the notices. They send out 1,000 every 2 weeks, and about 200 people responded. So that's how many were there yesterday. And so we'll see if he even has to go. But it should be interesting. It's a nice place down there at the courthouse. It's awful parking, but there's at least there's a couple lots we can park in. So in any event, hopefully he won't have to be there for very long. If he does, hopefully it won't be something that's for days on end. So we have way too much watering here to do, but we're figuring it out. We've kind of got a plan here in case I'm here doing it while he's down there sitting on a jury. So anyhow, most of the time though, I think I'm going to be down there and I'm going to be writing. I have actually found a third book that I have I've got the first chapter on. It's another novel. So 2 novels and another one that I have that isn't a novel that I'm working on. So I might take that stuff down with me and work on it. Maybe I'll take my tarot cards and make the police down there think I'm doing fortune telling. So then I'll have to say, no, that's not what I'm doing. So anyway. I can't ever go anywhere without my tarot cards. If we go on vacation, they go with me. If I go out of town for the day, they go with me. You just never know. You never know when you're going to need them. So I always take a deck with me everywhere. So, except to the grocery store. I think I can probably wait to get home there. So anyhow. Well, if you're going to reduce 13 in terms of numerology, you're looking at a 4 energy, and that's structure and foundation and the 4 elements, so what comprises everything basically. It can also be about even progression and respite and all of that. But if you consider it a master witch number like I do, then it's a really powerful, transformative type of number. Think Hagalaz, the rune Hagalaz, which is thought to be the witch rune, and it's destruction, in preparation for change, I guess you could say. It looks like David Icke has something up. The anti-Semitism, tyranny, and the cowardice of labor. He's great, isn't he? I like listening to him. I like the British sense of humor. I like I like to watch the House of Parliament when they're yelling at one another. It's just the most incredible energy. They can all insult one another, and and everybody still likes each other, I guess, afterwards. I don't know. It's just, the low blows are hilarious. They're meant for a reason, obviously, but it's just a very interesting thing to listen to. And if you can ever watch David Icke's, some of the videos he has, I don't know how many he's done this way. I've seen a couple of them where he's wandering around London and showing the different symbolism. These are all people, I'm actually related to all these people. And so it's really interesting to listen to him. I kind of do it, to be truthful, I do it to get a little bit more history on people I'm related to. I'm part of the Merovingian ancestry, so I go back to Adam and whoever, created Adam and all, like we all do, but I'm in this weird direct line, and I don't know. I didn't discover this until I started, researching my ancestry a few years back, looking to see witches, if there were any in my family. I felt that there were, and I'll just tell you briefly, and then we'll start. I thought that there were, but I thought it was on my maternal side. Just given some of the things my grandmother, who was born in Ireland, had said over the years, things my mother had said. It just kind of felt like, because I've always known I'm a witch since I was little. And so I guess I felt like it had to be on her side. Well, I can't get past her parents. And I'm not even sure because I'm not even sure if I have her dad right. I don't know if he was ever in England. He may have been. So I may even have his extended family wrong. So I have more of his side than I do of her mother. I don't have anything there. And I couldn't find out if there was anything like that. But on my father's side, that's apparently where all the royalty is. And I mean, not that not at all, right? But over time, see, his family, some of them settled, were colonists, but some of them came in by way of Nova Scotia and settled there. And so some of them ended up being known as, because they came from Scotland, they became known as the Cobequid planters. And they kind of changed how farming was done and how they utilized aqueducts delivering water and all of that. So anyhow, I have, but a lot of them were lower level royalty that came there. I'm related to the Sinclairs, to the Bruces, to everywhere, Odin is an uncle in some lines, and a grandfather in others. These people were here, and they impacted our world, and they impacted our genetics. And but anyway, that's where all of the witches are there. And so I have them on both sides of the equation, really, the royalty that killed them and the ones that were killed. My 14th great grandmother, Lady Janet Douglas of Glamis Castle, she was burned as for witchcraft by he's either the grandfather or great grandfather of King James, of the King James Bible fame. He's also the one who was not only King of Scotland, but also of England. Mary, Queen of Scots was his mother. He's the one that started the North Berwick witch trials, but 100 years earlier. His grandfather or great grandfather, I can't remember if he's Mary Queen of Scots' father or not. It could be her grandfather, but whoever it was, also a King James, I think the fourth. Yeah, he had my grandmother killed. So I have them on both sides of the equation, and it's very, very strange to read about all of it in any event. But that's why I was interested in ancestry, was to try to find all of that. And I did a whole lot more than I ever knew. And then it sort of answers my question of why, we're beekeepers, because the Merovingian, and you wouldn't think that I would be, because I was taught to be afraid of them. But of course, yes, I'm a beekeeper now. And that actually was the symbol for the Merovingian family. So these little odd synchronicities in life, if you go back and you get an ancestry account somewhere and you start looking at who you're related to, you might see some things come up that sort of explain some things about yourself. And so I recommend it, but then I'm an ancestry junkie, so I don't know. I swear, though, I've learned more about history than there's a site called Here Be Dragons, and there you go. There I am, all throughout it. So that was a great lineage there. I could go and see all the different families, and I'm thinking, yep, I was checking against mine. I'm like, yep, I'm related. So it helped fill in some of the blanks in my tree too. So that was an interesting site. So if you are related that way, or you think you might be, then check that website out. It's fascinating. It's just fascinating. It's called herebedragons.com or .something. If you just type it in, it'll come up. So anyhow, let's get going anyway before we go off on too much of a tangent and get started with the first card. I was out harvesting what I think and I hope is the last of my oats. I'm so happy I planted them in these fabric raised beds, these round raised beds. I did it there instead of out in the medicinal herb garden. Too many other flowers come up and I can't see in there. So I just decided to have just something like that. And it worked out brilliantly. And then when I pull it out, because it's an annual, I'm going to pull it out and I'm going to probably put my cauliflower in for the part of my winter planting. So I'm going to do that here pretty soon. But I got to cut all the rest of that down today, so that was nice. Well, here we have the Lovers. It's the 6th card of the major arcana. We see the sun above. We see the angel with wings. The intentional coming together, the intentional balance, polarity, with the focus from spirit on the whole process. We see the apple tree behind, who is the woman, depicted, I suppose, as Eve. Adam on the other side with the oak tree behind. The serpent of knowledge is coiled around the apple tree, talking to Eve there, while the angel sits above. We see a mountain in the center, talking about the challenges, really, of such an alignment. Mountains, when you see mountains in tarot, you're looking basically about challenges and things like that. The obstacles in our way, the obstacles, the challenges that we face, while here in form, as we try to keep things in balance. Right now, obviously, in our world, they're not. We've had patriarchy become so prevalent that now it's just become this massive level of abuse, not just on women, but on the entire world. And so we're seeing the last vestiges of that rearing their ugly heads, which is probably why the guy in the Oval Office was elected, not for the reasons anyone thought they were electing him for. To cause a massive disruption. But I don't think that they really understand how that disruption is going to affect them personally going forward, because it will. But here's the thing. It's not that we want the changes that he's causing. It's not that we want the destruction that he's causing. What we want is to watch it and learn a thing or two. Watch it and understand that that's not the direction we need to go in. Sometimes we become caught up, in wanting too much of one thing and not seeking a balance. And in a sense, the Lovers, being the 6th card of the major arcana, the 6th energy is about higher self-awareness. So, with the 4, like if we were to reduce the 13 to 4, you have one ground level of structure, right? With the 6, now you're expanding that awareness. It's not so much about the mundane aspects of life. Now it's about what can you do with it? How can you share that with others? So with the 4 here, or the 6 here, it's how are you coming into balance with other people in a way that's positive and spiritual and, reflecting spirit, informing that whole experience. Right now, our world is not balanced. Right now, we see everyone as the enemy instead of the other side of self. And another thing that the Lovers talks about is the ability to see self in others. We talk about, and you see this in various ones with the Ace of Cups, you'll see the Dove of Peace bringing this disc that has a cross in the center of it and dropping it into the chalice, right, and causing the waters to overflow, the free-flowing genesis of new emotion, right? Well, you also see it on the front of the gown of the High Priestess, the same cross. Well, what we're talking about there is the vertical plane and the horizontal plane of existence, with theoretically, if everything's in balance, we're in the middle and everything's where it needs to be. You don't have one side heavier than the other. If there is going to be a heavier side, you want that to be the top, which is the idea of spirit informing everything, because that's what we are. The greater aspect of self is not this body. The greater aspect of self is our spirit or our soul. And all we are is just an extension of source energy, or the creator focused into form. So I think that, let's do another card here, but I think what we're talking about here, given that it's a major card, given that it's a card from the major arcana, we're talking soul archetypes. So it's like, higher self or creator saying, hey, wake up, pay attention here. We have issues of balance. We have issues of balanced polarity. The Lovers depicts not only the horizontal plane of masculine and feminine, or projective and receptive presence, but it also depicts the as above, so below nature of life, spirit versus form, or spirit versus the ego or personality. So that's basically what you see in the Lovers, even though, it's sort of implied. The cross there is sort of implied. So let's do another card. Well, we have the Queen of Cups, a very reflective woman. She sits in her lovely throne. You see some cherubs above there. You see a lovely chalice that she's got. She's got, looks like roses on her crown. She's in a white dress. Looks like her cape that's over her shoulders there that she's sitting on sort of has fish scales on it, doesn't it? You see the cherub down below there on there. Isn't that cute? That's just adorable. But she sits at the water's edge in reflection. She's pointed toward the past. So she's not someone who's necessarily focused on the future, but aware of it. It all sort of comes together for her. She's intuitive, she's kind, she's compassionate, she's a woman in authority. She has the ability to see the bigger picture, to understand the emotional side of things, to understand how fear impacts people as well. So she's soft and she's kind and she's loving. Unlike the King of Cups, who you bring that masculine energy in there, you can that he can be the same, but he can also be very passive aggressive. Now, you could say that if ill-dignified, she's too receptive, and maybe she doesn't stand in her own power when she needs to. Maybe she would rather take the hit emotionally herself than maybe deliver that onto someone else. But all these are things you think about, when you're balancing polarity, aren't you? Let's do another card. The other thing I wanted to say about the Queen of Cups, and I think that this is what distinguishes the queens from the kings and the empress from the emperor, is the fact that the queens can see the bigger picture. They can see how history and tradition and legacy are all important. It shouldn't be so important that it prevents progress or something better, from taking place. But at the same time, who we are is felt in the queen. Not so much in the king. So when we see the Queen of Cups, it's about who we are in our hearts. And when we look at the Lovers and we understand the issues of polarity that are being experienced now, we see it manifested in so many different ways. We see it with the problem with how we're treating migrants at the border, separating children from their families, taking great glee when you suddenly do a raid on a company that has had undocumented workers working there forever. No compassion for the children that are left alone and crying. Things like that. I think that the Queen has a tendency to be able to see all of it, to understand what's nonsense, and they want to, you'll see the Queen of Swords cutting through the crap, cutting through the lies, cutting through the, and that's basically what the queens are. Queens understand, here's how it is, folks. This is what we need to be doing. Whereas the Queen of Pentacles is going to be concerned with the mundane aspects of life, history, tradition, home, hearth, income, finances, jobs, security, all of that. The Cups is going to be about emotions. And so being the water elements, you see her next to the water. Well, this is about our emotional presence and how we manifest that in a way with authority, either in our own lives, standing up in our own power, or standing up for others. In terms of compassion. And again, swords is the air element. It's our intellect. And again, she's not going to I love the one from the Thoth Tarot. She's reclining in her throne in the clouds. She's got a sword in one hand and a severed head in the other. And that's largely what the Queen of Swords is. She's just not gonna, she's about right action. She's about standing in her own power. She's about truth. And then the Queen of Wands, she's someone who's going to get things done. And she's going to definitely be the warrior, the female warrior, the goddess presence, and manifesting, creation in a way that's balanced and forthright. And she's the female version of Tiwaz, the spiritual warrior within, thought to emulate the god Tyr. So the female version of that's what the Queen of Wands is. And so you can see, whereas the king may be the guy in charge, he really lacks the ability to truly carry that out in a way that is balanced and progressive and takes care of people in the process, is respectful as well. So I just see, I see men and women in the tarot maybe a little differently. I see Eve a little differently. I don't view the serpent, who was likely Enki, an extraterrestrial person. I think he likely, I think that they focused on the women because the women could understand what they were saying. And I don't think the men could. I think they were too caught up in who they were or what have you. And I think that they found a better way in with women. Women could understand what they were saying, and that they could bring, magic and crop growing and science and all the things that we needed to have to progress. The tree of knowledge gave that to Eve for a reason, not because she was the weaker sex. Oh, no, no, no. It's because she was the strongest to receive it. So, and she could do the most with it. So there you go. My little act of rebellion for the day. Well, this card, the third card here we have, is the Ace of Wands. And so what are we going to manifest? Again, a hand reaches out from the clouds, which is a familiar theme in tarot. We see, there's a castle way off in the distance. Looks like there's some trees, a little river maybe. The castle sits up on a hill. We see just a crude branch there, still has some leaves and little shoots on it. Some of them are being disrupted or dislodged as the hand probably manifests out of the clouds. It's coming out with force and energy and vitality. This particular deck, this Rider-Waite deck, is one that has a nice soft patina to it. So you can't really see the excitement that the Wands cards typically create. But be assured that this is the beginnings of something new on the horizon, something creative and passionate and vital and manifesting. Just our will is basically ready to manifest something. And I have to wonder what I think I'm going to do. We can either put the Queen first and then the Ace of Wands, so we can be thinking, maybe reflecting on how things are. Let's do it that way. And I think we'll just do 3 cards today. So we have the Queen of Cups, and she's thinking, right? She's reflecting on all that is, on how emotions play a role in everything, how balance is important. And then we can either go to the Ace of Wands at that point, and through her reflection, now she's ready, she's become inspired. She knows the direction she needs to go. And so she's willing to manifest that. So now we've spent some time in reflection. We've looked over everything. We know what we need to do now. And now we're ready to manifest that. And what we're going to do is manifest balance. And we're going to balance polarity. We're going to both within and without. And understand our shared purpose with others. We keep coming back to this theme this year. Last year, it was an 11-year, numerologically. And so what that meant was a master number for 11, 22, 33. Those are master numbers. And you generally don't reduce them. You can, but you don't. And they have power on their own. The 22 is the cosmic builder. 33 is Christ consciousness. And the 22 is probably the most powerful number that we have, and being the cosmic builder. But 11 is about enlightenment. And it's enlightenment based on spirit, explaining all of that to us, not something that we gain from ego, but it's spiritual enlightenment. And then this year we have a 3-year. And so what that means then is we moved from learning things last year. We became aware of a lot of different things, right? We were illumined. We were, you know, and then this year with a 3 energy, we're going to manifest something about, vis-a-vis what we learned, right? Let's do a rune. And what the theme, the ongoing theme this year has been has been that we need to manifest a better polarity, both within, so that inside the inner turmoil, that this grievance oriented experience seems to be at the heart of everything. I'm not getting what I want, so now I want more. Now I want to take more. I want what's owed me. I want my due. Well, okay. There's times, yeah, we're not getting what we're owed, and we need to deal with that, But some of this grievance stuff is not based in reality necessarily. It's based on emotion that's gotten away from us, and perspective maybe that's not as balanced as it should be. And so it's not to say that they don't have concerns that aren't valid, but sometimes they get overblown to a point that we can't really see things realistically anymore. And so it seems like what the Queen of Cups is doing by spending time in meditation, and in that time of reflection, what she's doing is she's coming to a better perception on things. And then, the Ace of Wands shows up and it's like, okay, let's manifest something different. And in a sense, the Queen of Cups is representing all of last year, and the numerological value of 11, the interpretation of 11 being about illumination. We learned things. She's clearly learning things in her moment of meditation. And then this year, we're ready to manifest with the Ace of Wands, based on what we learned. So maybe, obviously, if we pay attention, if we realize that, hey, maybe we're on the wrong path here, that yes, there's a problem, but it's really not the way I'm describing it. There's actually more this. We have to be willing to look at that, to just sort of let our emotions settle and just listen to some other perspective, maybe a whole bunch of different perspectives, to just see how they resonate and see if maybe it might soften your own. Sometimes, we get caught up our own perspective and we don't see the other side of something. It's like if we get into a dispute with a friend, for example, we get caught up in our own perspective, our own position in the dispute, and we're maybe not so willing to hear the other person and why they think the way they do and why they think it should be this way. And so sometimes if you just listen to each other, you might be able to find a third way, right? Or you might say, you know what, let's do it your way. I think that this is going to be the better way. And you give up maybe something that maybe you wanted for a greater purpose, right? That's all contained here within the Lovers, you see. So you can see how we're kind of getting there. Here I drew Isa, which is the 11th rune, again, of the Elder Futhark, so a little illumination there. It's the rune of the static realm. It's the Norn rune of the static realm. There are 3 Norn runes, Hagalaz, Nathis, and Isa. So Isa is the rune of the present moment, a place where a few of us live, right? We live in the past. We're thinking about things we're upset about or things we need to, that we didn't do or whatever, right? And then we're also maybe our minds are on the future. But rarely are we really focused on what's going on in the here and now. And again, that's where perspective, the Queen of Cups is asking us, maybe use some intuition here. What resonates? Not what you think, not what somebody is telling you, but what truth actually resonates? And if we could all come from that standpoint, we might not have to work so hard to do this. So we could say that Isa aligns well with the Queen of Cups. In her meditative presence, in her receptive presence, she's going to align and go within and come to some kind of better emotional balance or perspective that she didn't have before. One that's based on compassion and intuition. What really resonates, We know when something isn't right, don't we? You don't have to be psychic. You don't have to be an empath like I am. You don't have to do any of that. You just know. We all do. That's the funny thing about people who are psychic and people that are empaths and whatnot, You think that we're special. We're not. Everyone is this way. It's just that some of us have decided to focus in on it, and so we're more aware of it. That's all. We all have moments of synchronicity. We all have moments of deja vu. We all have moments where, hey, I think I knew that was going to happen. You just maybe it's more centered around your children, maybe, or a family member or something, but we all have them. And we need to just pay attention to that, because that's the voice of spirit, speaking to us. And that's the part that's part of the collective consciousness, or the Akash, however you want to look at that. But this whole voice is a collective voice. It's not just ours. And so we really should be listening to it. That's all empaths and psychic people are tapping into when they know something. We're tapping into that collective awareness that's just ever present, because it's who we are. It's who all of us are. We're not individuals. And that's the other message of the lovers. It's being able to see self in other. Let's take a look at the geomancy rune, though. Where is my light on my magnifying glass? All right, well, geomancy, as we've spoken about before, is an older divination tool. I'm going to put these 4 runes here. There's a single dot on one side and 2 dots on the other. I'm going to arrange them in fire, air, water, and earth. So it's going to be a glyph that has 4 levels. Like an I Ching hexagram has 6 lines, whether they're broken or not. Similar sort of thing. So here we have a single dot for fire, so an active presence or principle. A single dot for air, so an active air principle. A single dot for water, another active presence or principle or influence, and a dual dot for earth. Now, we've had this before, and if you've been here before, you might remember this particular, there's my pen. This geomantic rune or glyph or symbol is called Kata Draconis. And again, it's 3 single dots followed by 2 at the bottom. If you flip it upside down, you're going to have Caput Draconis. Now, the Draconis runes are governed by the nodes of the moon, all right? Caput Draconis is the head of the dragon, so it deals with the present moment. And you could also say the future, but it deals with our present life, okay, in form. Now, Kata Draconis, on the other hand, deals with the past. It deals with past life influence. And so, but it also deals with endings. And so, Caput then would be beginnings and Kata would be endings. And so, what we could say here about this, if the whole goal is to end the misperception that causes us to see another instead of a brother or the other side of self. Maybe if we've been talking about patriarchy and the imbalance that it's caused by a focus on male dominance. We've talked about the heretical type of attitude that I have that says that the snake giving the knowledge to Eve was not a bad thing. It was a necessary thing because Adam wasn't up to the job. Sorry. So, so we've talked a lot about, how all of this got started. And now what we have now is the result where some of us look at what's going on in the world and you just don't recognize it anymore. It's become so bad. And so you can get caught up in the badness of it all, or you can get caught up in the idea of, well, maybe we need to sit back and reflect and really think about who we are, what we think we are here in this country, what this was all supposed to be. Is it what we still want? Do we want the United States of America, for example, to be a white nationalist country, or do we want it to be the melting pot it was designed to be? I go for the second. I would like it to continue being the melting pot that it is, and blessing and cherishing all those who come here that enrich in all of our lives with their heritage and their culture and their beliefs and their families and their strength. That's what makes this country great. Not everybody looking like me, that's not what does it. And so I think that what the Queen is telling us, the Queen of Cups is suggesting, is that we need to go within and really do a little bit of soul searching to see if what we are thinking and perceiving and believing about something, is it really true? Do we want to find a more compassionate way if we're challenged that way? Or maybe it just reinforces that sitting down and reflecting and meditating. Maybe it just reinforces that you've always been on the right track with how you believe about things. But at the same time, now we have some room for some creative movement on this issue, and that's the Ace of Wands. And that new manifestation is the balanced polarity of the Lovers, bringing an end, and it happens in full alignment with who we are as source energy, bringing an end to the imbalance of patriarchy and the destructive influence it's had over our lives for thousands of years. You know, the word seedy comes to mind. You know, we're also, I'll just chat a couple more minutes here and then I'll let everyone go. But the word seedy comes to mind, you know, now that Jeffrey Epstein is dead. And we're going to find out how that all happened, because he shouldn't be dead. He shouldn't have been allowed to kill himself if, in fact, that's what he did. Someone else could have done it for all we know. We don't know yet. But you start looking at who he was and the people, including the guy in the Oval Office that, you know, hung out with him. I think in the days ahead, we're going to find out the seediest things. I know that those on the right believe that those on the left would walk through fire to protect any Democrat who might be a pedophile. Well, they're wrong. It's so fascinating. You know, I hear all this, liberals this, liberals that, you know. I've been a liberal all my life, and do you know that I've never thought that way? All the ways that they say we think. You know, it's like, oh, you know, because I'm one of those things, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So, you know, if there are Democrats that are caught up in this whole seedy thing, you know, this pedophilia ring, this sex trafficking stuff, you know, whoever it is, I couldn't care less. I want them all to go to jail. And if they could just simply be executed along the way there, that'd be fine with me too, right? Obviously, that's not what we do here, but, you know, given that I'm a survivor, I couldn't care less. If you've harmed a child, you've harmed a child. And I love the headlines, you know, I love the headlines. Oh, so-and-so, some Republican operative or some Republican person or whoever it is, right? Whatever the headlines are. They were caught, you know, having sex with a 14-year-old. No, you were caught raping a 14-year-old. They can't, the media can't even bring themselves to use the correct verbiage, right? You don't have sex with a child, you rape them. It's simple. And yet they still haven't gotten that. Well, the uproar on social media over that sort of thing is getting louder. So I think that it's going to not serve them well, the media, you know, to continue to dumb this stuff down. But here's the thing, you know, I don't know any Democrat or liberal out there that wouldn't want someone in that party to go to jail or worse for something like this. So please don't think that, you know, if it turns out that, you know, there's some other names on there, because there's a lot of names that are floating around that are Democrats. If they did this, if it's true, if it just simply wasn't, they were being compromised by this guy, I don't care who it is. The guy in the Oval Office, don't care. Don't care who it is. If you harmed a child, you need to go. And it's that simple. Don't care what party you belong to. Don't care who you know, don't care who you are. You harm a child, you have to go. It's that simple. It's that simple. I don't know any liberal that doesn't think that way. So, you know, those people who want to suggest that that's not true, stop it. You look stupid. You really do. This is about the children. This is about safety of children. It's not about what party they belong to. It's not about who you voted for. It's about safety of children, period. And again, this is reflective of the patriarchy that we've been dealing with all of this time. All of this stuff is an imbalance within that then makes you do this without. It has to be reconciled, because this can't be our future. And I think that this reading is saying that. I don't know. Something to think about. Well, cool. I don't know what tomorrow brings. Perhaps I'll be spending part of it down at the courthouse. I just don't want to go down there and then have to come back here and then have to drive back, you know what I mean? If he's going to not, get taken in there and then not get seated, then I don't want to have to go home and then come all the way back. So I'm just going to stay up there and I'm going to write and I'm going to do my thing. And if it becomes, in the afternoon it's clear he's not going to be done till 5, then fine, we'll have our lunch and I'll go home. I'll go back. But other than that, I don't know. Hopefully this jury duty will be over by the end of next week and he won't, because you know what's going to happen. It'll be the last day and suddenly he'll get put on a jury that lasts 2 weeks, 2 more weeks or whatever, right? It'll make him insane. We have harvest, we have watering. He can't handle this. So anyhow, although he wants to do it, it's just the timing is bad. That's all. It would have been better if it had been, in the fall or winter or something, but no, it's always in the summertime. So anyhow, I guess that's it. Go check out the blog, over at imsteppingaside.com. I've got the correspondences up for Monday and Tuesday. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do daily correspondences, I guess, and then you'll see what that's all about with Mondays. I introduced it there. And then again, I think I'm going to continue to do the weekly Rune and Moon posts. That I think that's going to work out. So I think maybe I finally found my how I want to structure these things instead of trying to have it all together in one post. So maybe I'm going to try this for a while and see what that's like. So go check that out if you want to. And also there'll be some more herbal stuff that's going to go up here soon. So in any event, I guess that's it. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks so much again for coming by. Click subscribe if you haven't. I really love you to do that and come back and join our Tarot and Rune family. And no, that doesn't mean I'm going to contact you. No lists. I don't do that. I just come visit. That's all. And, put some comments if you want to. And, you have some other interpretations. Do that. There's no one way to interpret tarot. It really is an individual thing. And although there's some generally accepted interpretations of the different symbolism, there's also some other ideas out there, and it's just wonderful to explore all of them together. So anyhow, we'll see you tomorrow. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.